Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and I have been working on a lot of stuff lately. If it's not dealing with the mysterious circular light and figuring out how to use that, it is redesigning my studio and doing a bunch of other things that are all starting to happen. Monitoring, the reboot of monitoring is coming soon. It'll have not one, but two new cans headphone things, both of which are more intense than the previous ones because people wanted that to be stronger. So now there's two levels of stronger. Then the follow-up to DS is coming. DS is going to have an update in which it will get the clarity increases that people wanted to see in that, and a monitoring thing that's probably going to find its way into some of the compressors. But today, we're just doing something goofy. Or not really goofy, but this is one of those things where somebody wanted a thing out of me. And sometimes it just so happens that if one person wants something that seems like maybe it's a little bit unusual, and I don't want to build it into a plugin like this was requests for monitoring, which already has a million options. Sometimes I'll just do a plugin on the basis of that. So welcome to MoNoam. MoNoam is like a plugin for a fellow named Noam, and not Noam Chomsky, somebody else. And it does interesting, funny things with mono and side channel. And I can show you what that is. I'll fire it up. And here we have bypass. But we can select mono, and then we have mono. Or we can select side. And as you can hear, there's nothing mono left. And there's only the side channel. And it is literally inside form. So these are out of phase. And if you layered that with the mono track, you would get the original stereo back. But wait, there's more. You can have mono on one of the other sides. This is something that's coming in the Auratone or Aurat setting on monitoring, is you'll get to have it coming out of just one channel. If you don't like right, you can have it coming out of left. And that's coming in monitoring dedicated to the purpose of simulating your little mix Grot Cube speakers, whatever brand you might like. You can have side, but you know what? You can also have side and mono. So one of the channels is flipped. So now you're hearing only the side channel in mono in both speakers. And if you were doing some kind of funny mixing or whatever, you're trying to do something weird with routing, this might be a useful tool for you, because it lets you do, oh, well, if you don't like that, you could have only the side channel in mono on the right, or only the side channel in mono on the left. So there's MoNoam for you. It's all the variations of mono you could possibly want. And it's kind of neat. I think if people are using things like maybe Blue Cat Patchwork or something, and they like making elaborate routings of things, this might be just the ticket for doing something where you can have good control over what you're doing. Like you can flip these around and make your elaborate sort of multi-channel thing work exactly the way that you'd want it to. And you gotta love that. That's probably going to be downright handy. So yeah, this ought to hold, folks, for another week. Like I said, monitoring is coming. The update to DS is coming. I've got another secret project I can't even talk about because I'm working with somebody a musician I really, really like a lot, and I have something where it's got to get his okay that it's ready to go. But once he does give an okay, assuming he does give an okay, I think you'll find it pretty amazing. And there's the usual, like, ideas about different kinds of distortions, ideas about different kinds of things that I can do. Even though I am in the middle of a heavy studio rebuild, and there's a lot going on, I'm still managing to put out my usual array of plugins. And hey, check it out. We can hear the bass and things, which seem to be completely missing, because they were in mono, like so many things are. So there you have it. There's all kinds of things going on in Airwindows land. I have actually had the opportunity to throw pretty much everything the Patreon brings me towards studio rebuild. And that is exciting, and it's also a lot of work. But it is well worth it, and will, I think, come out with a lot of neat side effects and things. Stuff that I can do, stuff that I can try, stuff that I can test or measure, or just things like that. And sometimes a lot of work goes into it, but that's fine. Mostly you'll hear stuff from me only when it's basically just ready to go. That's why you're hearing about monitoring. That's why you're hearing about the DS coming out in a new form that beats the previous DS and fixes its problems, is because some things are just ready to go. And for stuff that isn't, I'll keep plugging away at it. But yeah, things are getting exciting. And I'm looking forward to various studio upgrades, video upgrades, things like that. Thanks to, first and foremost, the Patreon that has me still here years later, still finding ways of bringing everything up a notch and coming up with ways of making this all more accessible for people, because that's also got to fit into the I can't just keep putting millions of plugins for free as open source out there every week. I mean, I can, but it starts to get confusing. So I'm going to have to start dedicating effort towards making packages and combining things and teaching people a little better. And that'll mean more video making, so more video updates and all that kind of stuff. It's fun, though. It's all good. And thank you for, if you're a part of being the Patreon, I do a special podcast for you Patreon folks that is called the Evergreens Podcast. It's a little bit secret because I'm actually playing classical vinyl records in very, very high fidelity so that you can actually hear how people mixed and mastered the albums that sold millions and millions of copies and built an industry, rather than just the remixes and remasters that have destroyed an industry and left it running on nothing but Spotify that people don't really pay a lot of attention to. But I digress, and I'm also being opinionated, and I usually try to save the being opinionated for that podcast. So catch me on that if you're a patron, and if you want to hear me tell you how to mix and how to think about audio. But if you're not a patron, and if you can afford to and like to see me doing this kind of stuff, then please do join the Patreon. It's a patreon.com/Airwindows. And that's pretty much how it works, is the more I get, the more I throw into this whole, these shenanigans and these things that I can do. And they might lead to buying, dozens upon dozens of reverb tanks and trying to make hardware, because that's something that I'm doing, and I've got some wild things to try there. But in general, it's just sort of incentive to keep doing this work. And I think it's worthwhile work. I'm pretty happy to be doing it. And whether or not you're on the Patreon, if you were enjoying the kind of stuff that I do and get some use out of it, thank you for helping me. because it wouldn't mean a whole bunch if it didn't matter to anybody. With that, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.